Hello, it's the Crap Goth. My name is Pixie, and welcome to my podcast of absolute randomness, where you literally never know what I'm going to talk about. It could be happy, could be sad. I could get on my soapbox and start yelling and swearing. I've done that a few times as well. I'm also a YouTuber of the same name, so please head over. You can actually see what I look like as well. Not that you really want to, but I'm a bit weird, a bit different. But anyway, yes. Today is actually to talk about abuse. So, whether it's physical, mental, narcissism, gaslighting, all that kind of stuff. So, the reason I'm doing this podcast today is because I have been, I'm not going to say a victim because that just makes, I don't want to be a victim of it. I'm a survivor. This is actually a discussion which I'm actually having on my Facebook page, which is The Crap Goth. It's an open page. Please feel free to go over, have a chat. Please share your experiences if you want to. It's a very, very safe place to be. If anybody kind of kicks off and is naughty, they are removed from the page. So the Crap Goth Facebook page is kind of a follow-on from my YouTube channel. Obviously, the Crap Goth. Please do head over and subscribe to that. That really helps me. But we kind of talk about all kinds of things, and we all share experiences and we support one another, which I think is really important. And this is something I haven't actually really spoken out about, to be fair. I'm not going to name any names just for legal reasons. I'm not going to do that, obviously. I don't want any comeback from this either, but I do think it's really important to be open and honest. So basically, I am a survivor of domestic abuse, both physical and mental. So my story is, and it's probably going to be a little bit bitty because it happened quite a while ago. I'm not going to give too many details about it. But basically, before I met this person, I say a person because I don't even think it qualifies as being a person. Not a nice person at all. But basically, before I met this person, I was fiercely independent. I'd already got my daughter, Ebony, and it was just, I was taking her to school on the bus. We'd go out for day trips out. I was also an eco warrior, which I've been for many, many, many years before even having Ebony. I used to live in a tree. I'd go travelling around protest sites, all kinds of things. I'd been involved in the G20, which was basically obviously when the world leaders come over to London. I was in the climate camp section, so that's obviously the peaceful section, not the idiot anarchists who are smashing windows. I'm not that kind of person at all. But basically just trying to let you know that obviously I'd get on the tube, I'd get on buses, trains, I'd go across the country. I wasn't bothered. The year before I actually met this person, I also got on a plane and I flew to Morocco, and I flew to Marrakesh. I got picked up by this amazing family who I'd been speaking to for, I don't know, the best part of a year. They're a lovely Muslim family, incredible people, got to know them extremely well, did all background checks and things like that. I was all safe. They were amazing people. They picked me up from Marrakesh airport and drove me to Agadir, which is where they live. And it was just, oh my gosh, I had the best 2 weeks of my life. And I went there on my own. It was incredible. It really, really was. So nothing fazed me. At this point, I'd still got my parents and, I was very independent. I got a house with my little girl. I was still on speaking terms with my ex-husband, who I think is lovely now. He's really nice. Everything was pretty much okay. And then my mum was killed in a road accident, a motorbike accident, and everything changed. Obviously, you can imagine, absolutely, my world was shattered. I'd only just come back on holiday with my mum and my daughter, and it was like 3 days later she'd been killed. And it was just, oh my gosh, as you can imagine, my life just absolutely shattered into a million pieces, and I just did not know what the hell to do. Now, by this point, I'd met this person, and I thought he was lovely, which I think they all start off lovely, don't they? He's really sweet, really caring, great with Ebony. Everything was fine. And then once my mum had passed away and I was a mess, I think literally that's when he changed, and this sweet, nurturing side of him kind of went away, and the control came in and the instilling of fear. Now, it's really, really difficult because you might actually be in a relationship and not even know this is happening, because with narcissists or people like that, they kind of drip feed you. It's not like necessarily this huge bubble of anger that massively comes up and it's in your face and you're like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? They kind of drip feed poison into you all of the time, either verbally or whatever. So what this person did to me was instill fear. because my mum was killed on a motorbike. My dad was riding the motorbike. My mum was pillion. They got smacked into by a postal van. It then became, at that point, I was due to start driving lessons. And he was very much like, you need to watch out for other people that might hit your car and all this kind of stuff. And every time I went out, he would be like this, like saying little things about, it's not safe to be on the roads, and be careful when I'm crossing the road with Ebony because a car might smack into her, you might not hear it. So he very, very slowly over time made me afraid of the road. Now, obviously, if you lose a parent in that way, you're going to be nervous anyway. I drive a car and I am extremely aware of other drivers. Like, I'm not as in paranoid, but I am very, very aware of everybody around me, the potential hazard of everything. It's just, obviously, that's always going to be a thing now. And I'm always very conscious of bikers. So if you're not conscious of bikers, please always look. Make sure you check all of your windows and your mirrors, should I say. Just be careful. But anyway, he kind of made me paranoid about that. But that slowly turned into other things as well. So one of the things I noticed was that he would make me scared of anything. Going to the shop, what if I'm mugged? I think there was somebody following us behind there. Did you see them? And things like that. And it'd be like going to the park with Ebony. I think there might be a paedophile watching. There's somebody who lives local and he's always after little girls. You want to be careful because you've got... And it was literally everything from doing shopping to driving my car when I was doing my lessons. It was, kind of just being out of the house. And basically, I'm just going to cut forward a little bit because, well, say a little bit along. This was years ago. And right now, for those people who follow my YouTube channel and who see me regularly, know that I have huge anxiety. I now cannot leave the house alone. I don't think I have left my house to walk to a shop in, oh my gosh, maybe 14 years, if not longer. Probably a lot longer than that, actually. I've had a care team. I've got a support worker. My husband is now my registered carer. I cannot be out of the house on my own without another adult. It just can't happen. I can't go from place to place on my own. It just can't happen. And this is all down to this person. So let's take aside all the fact that he just dripped fear into me so much. In fact, let me tell you one thing that happened, and this is absolutely ridiculous. One of the houses that I lived in with my little girl Ebony, he actually moved into there with me and Ebony. And it was a council house, which I absolutely loved. This little tiny council house, and it had a little bay window. When I moved in, it was just a shell, no carpets, no nothing. I got a decorating grant, and I was able to make it my own. I made it really pretty, very Moroccan actually, because I'm into all the kind of Moroccan stuff, the dark reds, and it was beautiful. So it was Christmas time, and I got my Christmas tree in the bay window, because that's where it went. It just looked beautiful there. Obviously, all of the presents were under the tree as well. And he came home absolutely shit-faced, basically, because he was a bit of a drinker. And when he drank, he got a bit violent as well, and very, very mouthy and very controlling. He came in late on Christmas Eve, which he'd promised my daughter he wouldn't do that because we were going to play some games and all that kind of stuff. She went off to bed, and he wasn't there. He rolled in from wherever he rolled in from, God knows what he'd been drinking. And then he started telling me that there were people looking through people's windows and they were looking to rob people on Christmas Eve, and that it was stupid that I'd got all the presents under the tree and that they were going to be looking through the windows because basically the curtains came across the bay window. We didn't have blinds or anything, so we couldn't close that. So obviously the Christmas tree would have been behind the floor length curtains. And he convinced me that people were literally stalking people's houses, looking through the windows, and were breaking in the middle of the night. And so I stayed up all night. And we ended up having an argument about it as well. And he headbutted me. And that was and it was awful. So I was obviously absolutely devastated. And I slept downstairs on the sofa pretty much, the majority of the early hours of the morning. Once I'd got over my fear of somebody actually stealing the Christmas presents, I put the deadbolts on, I put the chains on the door, everything. We had double glazing, so I knew they wouldn't be able to smash their way through that. And then just so that Ebony didn't suspect anything was wrong, I actually then went to bed and had to get in bed with this person as well and pretend that everything was okay Christmas morning, even though he just hit me literally hours ago. And it was things like that he did. It was instilling fear in stupid little things that nobody would really think about. But he did it in such a way that I believed him. Honestly, he was so flipping plausible. And he just went on and on and on like that for quite a while. And then he started to isolate me from my friends. And this is one thing I did actually notice and I did pick up on. And obviously, I raised the subject with him. And he really got very, very, very angry with me. And this was one of the things was he was having a birthday party. And he obviously, you kind of arrange things through Facebook. So he arranged this big birthday party for himself. I don't even remember how old he was. He was much younger than me, by the way, at this point. I was a bit of a cradle snatcher, to be fair. And he actually invited some of my friends via Facebook, which I thought was like really nice because, he said, look, I want you to come and I want you to kind of like be happy and, you're going to have some of your friends there. A lot of my friends are very alternative and they're very outspoken and they're very lovely. My friends, absolutely lovely. So he sent out invites to my friends. And then it got to his birthday and then he sent them messages saying, don't you bother turning up. And my friends were like, basically, what the fuck? And they were messaging me saying, like, basically, your partner's a dickhead. He's an absolute idiot. And he was actually being very, very abusive. He was inciting hatred to a lot of people just to get their backs up on purpose. So that basically they wouldn't want to come round to my house to visit me because he might be there. They wouldn't want to be anywhere that he was. So slowly over time, this happened over months, he was slowly cutting me off from all of my friends. And it was like, I did notice that, obviously, like I said, but at that point I was like, I'd lost my mum. I was very, very, very vulnerable. I actually did end up in the psychiatric unit as well, because I did actually try to take my life at one point because I couldn't cope with how he was being. I couldn't cope with the death of my mum, and it was just awful. But I managed to get through that, and I came back home and all that kind of stuff. And then I fell pregnant. And yeah, he was less than happy about it. But then I started to get really ill, and it turned out I was having an ectopic pregnancy, and basically my fallopian tubes or whatever happened ruptured. And he was in the pub, and I remember messaging him going, you need to come home now, I'm on the floor. I just felt like I was dying. It was horrible. And he wouldn't even leave the pub. He's just like, just ring an ambulance. And he left me on the floor while he stayed in the pub drinking. And basically, I went off to hospital, and yeah, I had to have a fallopian tube removed. Prior to this, I knew that I'd got an ectopic pregnancy. I'd had to go for quite a few injections in my bum to try and dissolve the pregnancy, which in itself was harrowing because I wanted the baby and I was really sad. And he just went off nightclubbing and left me on my own, basically. So yeah, I went for emergency surgery to save my life. I lost the baby, I lost a fallopian tube. And then I came home, and stupidly, he came back with flowers and apologies because he didn't visit me in hospital, he just left me. And then he kind of wormed his way back in. I don't even know how. Yeah, anyway, I ended up getting pregnant again a few months later. That baby was fine. I think you can probably guess who this person is by now. But basically, I got pregnant, and he came home from work, and he said, how are you? And I said, I'm pregnant. And he went absolutely fucking ballistic, like literally yelling at me, like, you have ruined my life. I will never forgive you for this. And he went absolutely mad. And I was just like sat on the sofa sobbing because obviously I'd already lost one baby. But yeah, then it turned out this baby was poorly. You can probably understand who this is. But like I said, I'm not going to name names or anything like that. But it's and then we had a lot of problems when my little boy was born and stuff like that. So yeah, but the abuse didn't stop there, unfortunately. It really didn't, and it carried on. And then my son was also abused and hit and things like this, which I actually did report. I took photos of his injuries and I sent them in to the children's centre who we were actually working with at the time. They said they would store the photos, don't worry. This actually did end up in court. So when eventually I managed to get him out of my life with the help of Spanky, actually, my husband now, it actually didn't stop. So I then got taken to court repeatedly for 2 years on all these stupid charges. I would get letters in the post saying I am neglecting my children, I'm emotionally manipulating them, I'm doing this. There was literally ridiculous, like every single flipping month it seemed as though I was being accused of something, being hauled in front of the court. I couldn't afford legal representation. And he was sat there looking all smart and dapper with his little waistcoat on and with his solicitor that obviously God knows how he afforded legal representation, but he did, and I don't know, I didn't, so I had to sit there quiet. I was allowed to take someone supportive with me, which I can't remember what kind of organisation she was now, but basically she was like an official person, and she would actually speak on my behalf if I wanted her to, because I was a mess at this point. My little boy, obviously he was really, really poorly. He had to spend so much of his time after having a first heart transplant in a courtroom waiting room, literally all day. Not kidding, all day. There was nowhere for him to lie down. There's nowhere for him to rest. John, on pretty much every one of his days off, my husband Spanky, would be sat with me and with Corey in a flipping courtroom waiting room while I went in and got shreds torn off me. Literal, like, just got pulled to pieces about how much of a bad mother I was. Not by the actual judges themselves, just by obviously this idiot's legal representation. And eventually, to cut a long story short, it all got kicked out of court because it was all absolute bullshit, like ridiculous. He provided photographs of stuff that never happened. He promised the court he'd got all these recordings of me being abusive, which never happened. So obviously he never provided them. I gave him full permission to bring them to court. The judges said, "Do you give permission?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I'd love to hear them." They didn't flip and exist, that's why. So we ended up putting cameras outside our house and all sorts, just to like record just in case he turned up. It was awful, honestly. It really was awful. The kind of pinnacle of everything happening was when my little boy needed a second heart transplant, and basically the shit hit the fan big time with this person who just kept turning up, and then the hospital finally realized what he was doing, and he just wasn't allowed to see my son. And it was awful. He was only allowed to see my son when he was either asleep or unconscious. That was it, because like my son Corey didn't want anything to do with this person at all. But what I'm trying to say is, obviously, this is not slander, this is not defamation, because I don't know if he's even going to listen to this. He might do. You pretty much all probably worked out who I'm talking about anyway. But like I said, I'm naming no names at all. But what I'm trying to say to you is, things can turn really, really, really nasty. The one person that you love and you trust, and you come to rely on, which is the one thing I think he wanted me to do. He needed me to rely on him. He wanted to be in control of everything. And I got to the point where I'm not being funny, but I am a feisty fucker. Like, I will not take shit from most people. If I've got something to say, I will say it. I am my mother's daughter. But at this point, obviously, he waited for me to be extremely vulnerable after losing my mum, and that is when it started. But I literally did not notice. Honestly, I was being gaslit. I was being abused. I mean, he would take the piss out of me in front of his friends openly, and then they'd all kind of laugh, and some of them laughed a bit awkwardly because they knew it wasn't right. And I'm going to tell you something really, really, really intimate now, which you probably don't want to know, but after we kind of were intimate together, he would make the loser sign on his forehead at me, laugh at me for being fat, and walked away. Now, I'm not a skinny person. I'm curvy. And I always have been. I've never really been like a size 10 or anything like that. I've always been a curvy girl. And I'm fine with that, it is what it is. But yeah, he would literally laugh at me after we'd been intimate and just and walk away, and then he would text other girls telling them how basically he was thinking about them whilst we were together, and leave his phone openly on the side with these text messages. So I knew what he was doing. And then he wouldn't leave my house, and it just became awful. So there are warning signs to look out for. There really, really are, because even the strongest person can get broken. And this person, even I literally detest them. I literally hate them. I know hate's a strong word, and something, it takes energy to hate somebody. They're pathetic. They really are. And I'm so glad that no one has to suffer at the hands of him that I know of right now. What worries me is the fact that this person's allowed out and allowed to have babies with other people, and God knows what he's doing. But that's his life now. I'm out of it. And my son's safe from it all now. And but basically, things to look out for. Please, please, please be aware if you are getting any of these, especially nowadays, because there are so many helplines out there. Or you can come across to the Crap Goth. You can talk to me privately. You can message me, and I can try and help you. Okay, so being cut off from your friends is a huge, huge one. These people, all they want you to rely on them. They want to be the focus of your attentions, whether it's good or bad. They don't want other people picking up on what they're doing. They will seem plausible. They will be the most reasonable people in the world. Most people will look in and think that they are amazing. Like they would never ever believe you. Like if you said anything, there is no way because this person's too funny or they're too nice or they're so sweet and they're so timid. Like these people know how to play a crowd. They know how to speak to professionals. They honestly, and this person was very, very, very good. One of Corey's admissions on making the entirety of the staff, and I'm not kidding, these are trained professionals who work with people all the time. They were convinced that I was really, really, really unstable, making everything up because I was absolutely at my wits' end, stood outside of my son's room crying, saying, "You need to listen." And they wouldn't believe me. It was, oh my gosh, they even shouted at me. Like they took me to one side and shouted at me. It was horrible. And then obviously eventually everything came to light and they were like, I got an apology and everything. It was awful. So these people will be plausible. They will make you think that you are mad. They will, if they lose their temper, it will be your fault because you drove them to do it. One of the things is I was driving my car. I'd not long passed my test, and he would sit beside me on the passenger seat, repeatedly tapping me on the head, like over and over again, just tapping my head whilst I'm driving. I'd ask him to stop. He'd laugh. He'd carry on doing it. I was driving the flipping car. I'd got my kids in the car. He would carry on doing it and carry on doing it and carry on doing it until the point I snapped and yelled. And then he'd shout back and go, "How dare you yell in front of the kids?" and make me feel like awful, like I was a really bad parent. So I'd cry. And then he'd say I was being over emotional and mardy and needy. And then obviously he'd be angry. But all of that would have been my fault. It wouldn't have been his. It was mine. So watch out for that as well. That is another thing as well. So yeah, and the flowers. Don't buy it. All the apologies and the flowers, and I'll never do it again. And I love you so much, and you're my life. And then they'll turn around and hit you, or they'll shout at you, or they'll make you feel full of fear. So yeah, they will instill fear to control you. They will cut you off from your friends, like your friends cannot intervene. Sometimes family as well. I mean, I didn't have my mum. My dad was still in hospital after the accident, and I didn't really have anyone. So my friends were the only people I really had. They will cut you off from everybody you know so that they can have control or make you think that other people are talking behind your back, etc. So that's another warning sign to look out for. Abuse is the big one, the physical abuse. Obviously, mental abuse, I think, is worse. Physical abuse, you can see bruises, you can see cuts, you can go to the ER or the doctors or the police, you've got proof. When it's emotional, you don't have those scars, it's your word against theirs, and quite a lot of the time, they are the plausible ones. Now, I openly suffer with mental health, have done my entire life right from being a child. Obviously, I'm in a working diagnosis of schizophrenia and all that kind of stuff as well, so which would explain a lot. So I was vulnerable anyway. But obviously, he played on that. He played on my mental health. So if anything was wrong, or I said something to somebody, it would be because I'm mental, because of my mental health is playing up. And then the crisis teams would get involved, the mental health teams would get involved. I'd have a child assessor come into the house to check over the kids, go through all my food cupboards, make sure the children are not abused, make sure they're safe, to literally interview my children. This happened several times. It was horrible. And it was degrading and horrible because it was not necessary at all. So yes, they will play it down to play it up really to professionals and other people to make you feel like you are the one in the wrong, that you are mad. And there's just so much to look out for, honestly. I mean, I can't sit and list everything. I can only go from my own personal experiences. But please, please, if you are feeling that way in any way, shape, or form, the best thing to do, if you can safely do this, is document it, write it in a diary, date it, hide that book somewhere that they're not going to find it. Talk to people. Now, I was too scared to send a text message because he checked my phone all the time. I couldn't email because he checked my emails as well. Obviously, I never really got a chance to be alone with anybody because obviously I got to the point where I needed him to be with me at all times. So I couldn't say anything at like hospital appointments because he was there. And it was really, really, really difficult. At this point, I didn't really have a support worker, so I wasn't able to leave the house on my own. He did work, but at that point, he worked in a shop, and I was obviously I did the school run like with my daughter. Sorry, I'm stuttering a bit now because I'm getting a bit anxious. But I didn't dare leave the house. So he knew that where he left me, I'd still be there when he got back. Like, I wasn't going to trot off to the police station and report him or anything. He also used my son's illness against me. If you call the police, this might harm, my son, and he might cause him to go into cardiac arrest because he had a very poorly heart and all this kind of stuff. So I didn't dare call the police in case I was the one to cause stress on my little boy when he saw this person being arrested and taken away. So he used fear against me. He used control. He isolated me. It was awful. And that happened for about 7 years. It was horrendous. And even now, I'm actually due to start going for what's called historical abuse sessions, just to get it out there, just to get him out of my head, get him out of my life, because he really isn't worth a fucking thought in my head. Like, I really don't like this person at all. He's an idiot. But please, if you need help, there is so many things now that weren't available back then. If you can safely email or safely kind of contact me, I will help you if I can. There are lots and lots of domestic abuse kind of helplines out there now. Even if you can slip a note through like a neighbour's door or something and just say that you need help. There is also the universal sign for help now, which I don't know if you guys have seen. You can Google it or YouTube it, and I believe what it is, I might be wrong, but I'm hoping I'm not, is you hold your hand up and you fold your thumb into your palm. And that's kind of like a help sign. A lot of people have been driving cars and have seen this apparently, and they've called the police. So, you can actually ask for help. It's just, don't suffer in silence. Don't mess up like I did, because I didn't realise until it was too late. And by that point, I was an absolute mess. And that's why I'm a mess now. It really, really is. So yeah, if he's listening to this, congratulations, you absolute wanker, for like just destroying the best years of my life, basically. But you know something? I'm getting over it and I'm fighting on and I'm doing well for myself now. So yeah, it's just, that's it really. That was it. That's like my little story. It's not even quarter of what I actually went through, but there's no point going into everything. Just, if you think that you are suffering from domestic violence or physical violence, that emotional, anything at all, being gaslit, whatever, please reach out. Honestly, there is so many organisations who can help you now. Don't suffer. Don't think it's love, because somebody who genuinely loves you would never, ever do that to you. So ignore the flowers and the gifts that come afterwards, and the sorries and the crying and the breaking down. It's all bullshit, because anybody who loves somebody else would never do that to them. So please don't get trapped like I was. And that's it really. Honestly, that is it. So this is not a pity party. This is not like I'm a victim. This is just trying to warn other people, and that these things do happen. Some people are just idiots. They're horrible, and they're not worth your time. They're definitely not worth wasting years of your life on. And if you can protect yourself, protect your kids, protect your home, protect your assets, whatever, definitely protect your mental health. That is a huge thing, because my mental health now is making me potentially very, very poorly, because I've lost my little boy now, and it's just so much has happened. So yeah, try and protect yourself. Reach out if you want to. Reach out to me if you want to. Obviously, I'm in the UK, but it doesn't stop me from sitting there and researching places abroad. If you don't live in the UK, please feel free to reach out to me via my YouTube channel, which is The Crap Goth, my Facebook page, again, The Crap Goth. I don't really see comments on podcasts, but all my podcasts end up on my YouTube channel, so you are actually able to comment under that. Again, if you want to do it privately, please do reach out to me. And that's it really. Just take care of yourself. Don't let other people rule your life if you can help it. And honestly, I'm always here if you want to talk, because I've lived it. I've been through it. And like most people would have heard about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case as well, that was very, very open, and not everything is as it seems, is it? So, one person can be extremely plausible, and, people will always be divided. People will always offer their opinions, even when it's not wanted, and people will believe the other person, honestly, even if they're lying through their teeth as well. So, please, just look after yourself. And by the way, just for the record, I was on Johnny's side. But there we go, Anyway, this is not about anything to do with celebrities. This is about personal life, my experiences. So stay safe, look after yourselves, and please reach out if you can. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry that I've chewed your ear off a little bit. I just wanted to give you a little bit back history. And yeah, look after yourselves, and I shall speak to you super soon.